at that point, I don't know why, I was just thinking I want to be a flipper, and I didn't even think about wanting to hold it for long-term rental. And we bought it, and I wanted to sell for a certain amount. We were able to sell some of the ones and roll it into 1031, roll it into bigger deals. And we have about 35 doors, like 100 to 150. If you can do $200 a door, that is a good rental property. If you can't do any of that, then you've done something wrong. You got to go back and check it out.
Thanks for joining us on another REI-NWA podcast. This is podcast number 37, and today we're going to be going over the BRRRR method. It's summertime right now, but we're gonna get a little bit chilly with the BRRRR, and so this is one of those topics that comes up a lot in terms of how do you actually scale your portfolio once you get started. And so joining me today, I'm really happy to welcome to the show Joy Haggerty. Thanks for joining us, Joy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hope everything
Yeah.
is good for you. I've never heard of this burr in the summer. I don't know. Maybe I've heard it, but just never registered. So that's a good one.
So we'll dig into that. This is a strategy that really got popular on Bigger Pockets. A lot of people have heard of that. It's you buy a property, you renovate it, you rent it, you refinance it, and you pull money out of it, and then you repeat the process. So before we get into all of that, I do want to just let the audience know who you are, where you come from, how you got to doing what you're doing now. Yeah, go ahead and take it away. Of course, we have a little bit of history because we were at the same company for a long time. You've been a top producing agent here in Northwest Arkansas for a long time. Tell us a little bit about your history. Rewind the clocks for us.
Thank you. I'm not sure how far back to rewind to, but originally I came from China and joined the corporate world. And about 2006, when I left, I did some other entrepreneur consulting business. And about 2016, I said, I really wanted to take it to a different direction. At that time, we accidentally become a landlord. We had 3 doors. And I said, well, let me just learn. So REI was starting to be really active in Northwest Arkansas. So I joined and learned a lot. And like you said, I also heard about the bigger pockets, just started listening to all the podcasts and learning. And I said, I think I can do this. Even though I don't know how to hold a hammer, I can figure it out. So we bought our very first 100-year-old house that I fell in love to, and I had to do it. I bought the house and I thought I wanted to be a flipper, and everybody, was doing the flip. And I bought it for 70. I figure, hey, I can put in a little bit and fix it and rent it. But a friend of mine talked me into doing a short-term rental. So I ended up not selling it right away. At 30,000, I mean 70,000 purchase, $30,000 all in rehab cost. I kept it for short-term rental. I just went to the bank and it appraised for 150,000, 80% to the bank, kept the 20% equity in there. I ended up pulling another 20,000 out because I had 100 in and I was able to refi and pull the 120. So I made $20,000 and the property is still being kept. And so that was great hook for me. And so I
Yeah,
just started getting into it. Yeah.
that's a win to buy a house and then a few months later walk away with $20,000.
Right. And so from there on, I figured, why not do some more? So we bought more houses, and some we flipped, some to flip is to make some additional capital to help us to buy the long-term rentals. And so fast forward, we were able to sell some of the ones and roll it into 1031, roll it into bigger deals. And we have about 35 doors, a little over 35 doors today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, I
Hmm.
mean, when I first heard about the BRRRR method, it was kind of eye-opening, and I think a lot of people have this experience of going, "Oh, wait a minute. You can create value in the asset that you can then pull back out of the asset and then go buy more assets." But it's in creating enough equity gap to be able
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
pull from financing to be able to do it. So, yeah, that's really interesting. So let's break it down
Yeah.
to what the BRRRR method is, right? So it's you buy a property,
Hmm.
then you renovate that property. Of course, you're buying a property far enough below market value that then you renovate the property. Then
Hmm.
you can go ahead and rent it, put a tenant in it, and now all your bills are being paid, and then you refinance. And so
Hmm.
then when you refinance, you can, like you did, you could pull,
You
20
can
another
pull money out.
$20,000 out. And depending on the property, the amount that you pull out can vary, right?
Hmm.
But then that can
Yes.
go toward
The
repeating the
next
process.
purchase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could go into another purchase, right? So,
Yeah.
what do you think are some of the pitfalls that people might run into with this? Things to look out for. It's sometimes brought out as this sort of panacea, or it's like this perfect way to do a real estate deal and scale your portfolio. But are there some downsides that people should be aware of?
If I am to think of a downside, is obviously didn't buy it right. And buy it right is very important to start with. And when you say you buy it right, you got to know the market. You got to know you not to overpay, but also leave enough cushion in case something were to happen and it doesn't do right, and then you can still find other ways to exit the property. For example, we had bought at that point, I don't know why, I was just thinking I want to be a flipper, and I didn't even think about wanting to hold it for long term rental. And we bought it, and I wanted to sell for a certain amount, and it doesn't sell. So I have to say, well, I guess if it doesn't sell, I got to be able to rent it out and keep the property for a couple of years. And at that point, the renting part, and so the BRRRR method, I keep on going back and forth because I was more thinking, okay, so one, you got to buy it right. Two, you got to rent it at a certain point that it covers your costs. And so my criteria for the rent is it needs to make you a net cash flow per door after you pay mortgage, after you pay um, the taxes, the insurance, and leave a little bit, like 100 to 150. If you can do $200 a door, that is a good rental property. If you can't do any of that, then you've done something wrong. You got to go back and check it out. So, and then the other thing is when you're rehabbing, uh, I have to mention Larry Kelly because he was the realtor when I was buying some of my properties. And when I go in, I wanted to strip everything down. I want to put everything. I want to put a Taj Mahal in. And he says, "It doesn't always have to be that way." And I was like, "No, you don't understand. People expecting this." But actually, if you look at some of the stuff, and well, I have a great example that I pulled up. If you don't buy it right, or you don't rehab it right, you're going to end up lose your shirt. 1712 Emma Avenue in Springdale, I think. They bought it for 212,000 in 2022, June of 2022. A year later, they listed for 439,000. Couldn't sell. Since April 5th of 2023, they dropped the price 7 times, dropped it $114,000 and ended up selling it a year later at $325,000. So that is something that went really, really bad. The thing is, it is a risk. It's not, sure win. But at the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
time, a client of mine who is also an investor, we bought a similar house near the same neighborhood. And I went in and I told him, I said, hey, on this one, please don't overdo it. Because I think your max is 300K in this neighborhood. So we didn't overspend. We were able to put it back on the market for just a little over. We tried 325 too, but we didn't. We ended up selling it at 300, but we were able to make it out okay. And that's what I'm saying is that talk to people and get enough information and be prepared and always leave cushion. I think that would be the warning or forewarn. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a multi-stage investment strategy,
Mhm.
which means every single one of those stages you need to have thought out, right? So,
Yeah.
like, absolutely right. You have to buy right. And by buy right, it means you got to buy it low enough below market, and which
Mhm.
means you have to know what the market is,
Mhm.
and you have to know what your renovation cost is going to be. So those two right there, obviously
Mm.
you're the first two, but if you were going to flip it,
Yeah.
that's all you would be doing is just those first two. But now we're complicating it with another three steps after that, right?
Right.
So you got to
Right.
buy it right, then you have to renovate it correctly and not
Mhm.
over renovate it like you're
Right.
saying. Going in knowing you're trying to do a BRRRR method, you not only have to know what it's worth in the open market, but you also have to know what the rent rates are,
Right.
right?
Correct.
So it's and that needs to be done on the front end. So those first three steps all need to be done. All the math of those first three steps needs to be done on the front end. And then you also have to know the rate environment and all of this other stuff, because if you're trying to refinance out of
Mhm.
your hard money loan or whatever it is that you got started with, and you're refinancing, now that mortgage rate has to make sense, and that mortgage payment has to make sense as well based on the rental rates.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so I mean, it's a combination of flipping and holding long term.
I think there is not just always one strategy. If you're a real estate investor, you're gonna at one point in time turn into a different deal, look at a different deal. There is a different strategy, different exit strategy, different way to make money. So not all. I can't just say, hey, right now I'm a buy and hold. Only do buy and hold. I don't do anything else. I gotta be prepared when some deals comes and I don't want to buy and hold, and I wanted to sell. For example, if the neighborhood it's too far away and it's not fit for me to be holding it as a long-term rental, I can always sell it, right? And then vice versa, if I find something even though it's way expensive, like we I found a deal, it's a quadplex in Bentonville downtown, and I look at the price and thought about what the potential, like you said, know your rent. And so thought about what the potential rent could be. And if I get that, um, what kind of return would I have? And does it make any sense? And it did. So I threw in an offer, and 2 hours later, my offer was accepted, and we ended up with a great property with a great potential. So I think another advice for people is don't be afraid. We can always recover. We can always recover from a mistake or from um, setback or whatever. But if you see a deal and you don't take action, I think that would be a huge regret that in the future you're like, oh, I wish I could do that. And that's actually another thing. When I first started buying, I had a realtor and we looked at a lot of properties, and one of the thing that she did was go in there and pointing out, oh, this one, the roof is missing a couple of shingles, or that one, the ceiling has a little wet spot, and that is not a good, so let's walk. And so I walked.
Oh no.
I missed so many deals because she was
Yeah.
doing me a favor by pointing out these things, but at the same time, it wasn't a favor because that was
She was
2000.
wanting you to buy it as a resale
Yeah,
situation, not as an
huh,
investor. Yeah.
yeah. So taking action, I think jumping in. I hear so many people just tell you that everybody just says that, just got to do it, but do it with, um, I guess, advice or help from some people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, it's a big topic. We got a lot to get into. And so we have a program that's coming up. This is going to be our rookie nook for the month of June. It's going to be June 27th at the Whole Hog Cafe in Fayetteville. Doors open at 5:30. $20 at the door if you're not a member. Zero if you are an REI-NWA member. But we'll get the program kicked off at 6 p.m. So doors open at 5:30. We'll get started at 6. Um, and guys, come out and meet Joy. If you haven't met Joy, you need to, because she really knows her stuff, and she's been in and around this market and has seen a lot of different things, and got a lot of good experience for you to learn from. So, also, don't forget, if you are even out of the area, if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to it on Spotify and you're out of Northwest Arkansas, you can still join REI-NWA and gain from all of the knowledge of all of our members and our past speakers, because in the back end of our website, once you're a member, you can get the backlog of literally years worth of programs, and we have 4 a month. So there's, I don't know, there's probably a couple hundred programs at this point that are in there that you can learn from. And so it's all available to you here with your REI-NWA membership. And you can check that out on our website at rei-nwa.com. So, that being said, Joy, thank you so much for hanging out with us a little bit on the podcast. And I can't wait to see your program.
Thank you. And look forward to being on there too. It's always good to give back, and really love what REI does for us, and whatever we can do to give back. I'm here. Thank you.
And the Rookie Nook is one of my favorite ones every month. So
Yeah,
we always
it
have
is.
new folks coming out to kind of get in the game, and it's fun to
Mm-hmm.
see fresh faces and get to give them a little bit of good insight. So
Yep. We were all rookies sometime, right?
absolutely, and I still
Right.
feel like one all the time.
Me too. I'm learning every day.
That's the game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode. We'll catch you on the next one.